The real reason you freeze when you speak English, most learners know thousands of words and every grammar rule, yet the moment a real person speaks to them, their mind goes blank. Shocking truth, this isn't a knowledge problem, it's a muscle problem. Your brain has been trained to recognize English, not produce it in real time. Traditional study, reading, memorizing, translating builds a passive library in your head, but speaking is an athletic skill. It requires your tongue, jaw, and breath to move at native speed instantly without translating in your head first. Shadowing attacks this exact weakness. By speaking simultaneously with a native speaker's audio, you force your mouth to physically rehearse sounds, rhythms, and reactions your brain has never practiced producing. This is why someone who scores brilliantly on grammar tests can still freeze ordering coffee. The gap isn't intelligence, it's repetition of real speech patterns. Once viewers understand this, shadowing stops feeling like just another technique and starts feeling like the missing piece they've needed the entire time. This reframe alone changes how seriously people take the challenge from day one. What shadowing actually is, it's not just repeating. Many people hear shadowing and assume it means listening to a sentence, pausing, then repeating it. That's not shadowing, that's just repetition, and it barely works. Real shadowing means speaking at the same time as the audio with almost zero delay, mimicking the speaker's exact rhythm, pauses, stress, and melody, like a shadow following a body. This is intense, uncomfortable, and mentally demanding, which is exactly why it works. Your brain can't overthink or translate. It has to react instantly, the same way it must in a live conversation. This simultaneous processing is what separates fluent speakers from textbook speakers. When done correctly, shadowing trains listening and speaking as one combined skill instead of two separate ones, which mirrors how children actually acquire language, not through rules, but through constant real-time imitation. Most learners quit shadowing because it feels hard on day one and mistake that difficulty for doing it wrong. In truth, the discomfort is the exact signal that new neural pathways for real-time speech are being built. Why rhythm and intonation matter more than vocabulary? Here's an uncomfortable truth. A person with a small vocabulary but natural rhythm sounds more fluent than someone with a huge vocabulary and flat, robotic delivery. Native listeners judge fluency primarily by melody, stress patterns, and pacing, not word count. This is called prosody, and it's the single most undertaught element in language learning. Shadowing is one of the only methods that directly trains prosody because you're forced to match pitch, speed, and emphasis word for word with a native speaker instead of reading flat text off a page. Over time, your mouth begins to remember these patterns the same way muscle memory works in sports or music. This is why people who shadow consistently start sounding different. Long before their vocabulary dramatically expands, listeners notice the rhythm shift immediately. For viewers who've spent years memorizing word lists with little payoff, this reframes the entire game. Fluency is musical before it's lexical. Understanding this single fact can be more transformative than another year of vocabulary apps. Choosing real conversations instead of textbook audio. One of the biggest mistakes learners make is shadowing slow, overly clear textbook recordings that don't resemble real speech at all. Real native conversation is messy, filled with contractions, mumbling, interruptions, filler words like and you know, and rapid-fire pacing. If you only train on clean, slow audio, you'll understand textbooks perfectly and still feel lost the moment a real person speaks to you. That's why real-life material, podcasts, interviews, YouTube conversations, movie dialogue is non-negotiable for this challenge. This kind of audio forces your ear to adapt to natural speed and imperfection, which is exactly what real interactions demand. It also exposes you to authentic slang, idioms, and natural sentence construction that textbooks intentionally avoid for simplicity. Choosing the right material isn't a minor detail, it's the difference between training for a real fight and shadowboxing in the mirror. Viewers need to hear this clearly because most people sabotage their own progress simply by picking material that's too polished and too far removed from real spoken English. The exact step-by-step shadowing method that works. Random shadowing without structure leads to slow, frustrating progress, but a clear process transforms it into one of the fastest speaking methods available. Step 1. Listen to a short clip once, focusing only on meaning without speaking. Step 2. Listen again, this time focusing purely on sounds, stress, and rhythm. Ignore meaning completely. Step 3. Shadow the clip in real time, speaking simultaneously, even if you stumble or mumble at first. Step 4. Record yourself shadowing and play it back next to the original audio. This comparison is where the real breakthroughs happen because you'll hear gaps you didn't even know existed. Step 5. Repeat the same short clip 5 to 10 times until your rhythm noticeably tightens. This loop. Listen, isolate, sound, shadow, record, compare, repeat is what turns passive listening into active transformation. Most people skip the recording step out of embarrassment, but that step alone accelerates results dramatically because you finally hear yourself the way native listeners do. Why daily consistency beats occasional intensity. Here's the shocking part most learners refuse to accept. 15 focused minutes a day for 30 days will outperform one exhausting 3-hour session done occasionally. Speech is muscle memory, and muscle memory is built through frequency, not intensity. Skipping days and cramming later doesn't just slow progress, it can actually undo the neural patterning your mouth was starting to build. This is exactly why framing this as a 30-day challenge changes everything psychologically. It removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with the power of showing up daily, even briefly. Viewers who commit to short daily shadowing sessions report noticeable rhythm and confidence shifts within 1 to 2 weeks, long before vocabulary or grammar improves. This single mindset shift from intense but occasional to small but daily is often the deciding factor between people who become fluent speakers and people who stay stuck as eternal learners for years. Consistency isn't the boring advice, it's the actual secret weapon hiding in plain sight. What if I told you that the reason you freeze up in English conversations has nothing to do with your vocabulary, your grammar, or how many years you've studied? What if the real problem is that your mouth has literally never been trained to move at native speed? Think about it. You can read complex articles, you can ace grammar tests, you can even understand fast native speech. But the second someone asks you a simple question in person, your mind goes blank. That's not a knowledge gap, that's a speaking gap. And there is one method used by interpreters, polyglots, and fluent speakers all over the world that closes this gap faster than almost anything else: shadowing. Today I'm going to show you exactly how it works, why it feels so uncomfortable at first, and how doing it for just 15 minutes a day can change the way you speak English forever. Stay with me until the end, because step 5 is the one almost nobody does, and it's the one that changes everything. Let's get into it. Most learners know thousands of words and every grammar rule, yet the moment a real person speaks to them, their mind goes completely blank. And here's the shocking truth. This isn't a knowledge problem, it's a muscle problem. Your brain has been trained to recognize English, not produce it in real time. Reading, memorizing, translating, all of that builds a passive library inside your head. But speaking is athletic. It needs your tongue, your jaw, your breath to move at native speed instantly without translating first. This is exactly why someone who scores brilliantly on a grammar exam can still freeze ordering a coffee. The gap isn't intelligence, it's repetition of real spoken patterns. And shadowing attacks this weakness directly. So what actually is shadowing? Because I promise you, it's not what most people think. It's not listening to a sentence, pausing and repeating it back. That's not shadowing, that barely works. Real shadowing means speaking at the exact same time as the audio, almost zero delay, copying the speaker's rhythm, pauses, stress, and melody, like a shadow following a body. Yes, it feels intense. Yes, it feels uncomfortable. And that discomfort is exactly why it works. Your brain can't overthink. It can't translate. It has to react instantly, the same way it must in a real conversation. This is how children actually acquire language, not through rules, but through constant real-time imitation. Now here's something that will completely change how you think about fluency. A person with a small vocabulary but natural rhythm will always sound more fluent than someone with a huge vocabulary and flat, robotic delivery. Native listeners judge fluency by melody, stress, and pacing, not word count. This is called prosody, and almost nobody teaches it. Shadowing is one of the only methods that trains it directly because you're forced to match pitch, speed, and emphasis word for word with a real speaker. Over time, your mouth starts to remember these patterns the same way muscle memory works in sports or music. Fluency is musical before it's lexical. Let that sink in. But here's a mistake that quietly destroys progress for so many learners: shadowing slow, overly clean textbook audio that doesn't resemble real speech at all. Real conversation is messy. Contractions, mumbling, filler words, rapid pacing, interruptions. If you only train on perfect audio, you'll understand textbooks beautifully and still feel completely lost the moment a real person talks to you. That's why for this challenge, we only use real material. Podcasts, interviews, YouTube conversations, movie dialogue. This is training for a real fight, not shadow boxing in a mirror. So how exactly do you do this step by step? First, listen to a short clip, once focusing only on meaning. Second, listen again, ignoring meaning completely, focusing purely on sound, stress, and rhythm. Third, shadow the clip in real time, speaking simultaneously, even if you stumble. Fourth, and this is the step almost nobody does, record yourself shadowing and play it back next to the original. This is where the real breakthroughs happen because you'll hear gaps you didn't even know existed. Fifth, repeat that same short clip 5 to 10 times until your rhythm tightens. Listen, isolate, shadow, record, compare, repeat. That loop is the entire method. And here's the part that will decide whether any of this actually works for you. 15 focused minutes a day for 30 days will always outperform one exhausting 3-hour session done occasionally. Speech is muscle memory, and muscle memory is built through frequency, not intensity. Skipping days and cramming later doesn't just slow you down, it can undo the patterning your mouth was starting to build. This is exactly why we're framing this as a 30-day challenge. Not because 30 days is magic, but because showing up daily, even for a few minutes, is the real secret weapon hiding in plain sight. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, pick one short clip of real, natural English every single day. Listen to it. Isolate the rhythm, shadow it out loud, record yourself, compare it to the original. Repeat it until it starts to feel like your own voice. Some days it will feel awkward. Some days you'll want to skip it. Don't. Because on the other side of 30 days of showing up, your mouth, your rhythm, and your confidence will not be the same person who started this challenge. Fluency was never about knowing more words. It was always about training your mouth to move the way native speakers move theirs, and shadowing is the fastest, most direct bridge between understanding English and actually speaking it. You don't need a perfect accent. You don't need to memorize another list of vocabulary. You need reps, real reps with real conversations, done consistently, one short clip at a time. That's it. That's the whole secret.